Okay. I'm going to call Tuesday, September 3rd Planning Commission meeting to order. Do we have a quorum?
Larry Chesney,
Present.
Francine Donchik,
Present.
James Barnes,
Here.
Thomas Bruce,
Here.
Sarah Savilicek,
Present.
Philip Horan,
Present.
Kenneth Frater,
Here.
Kate Nelson.
Here.
Now that we've determined a quorum, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Francine, Commissioner Donchak, will you lead us in that?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Edwards, would you read us the ethics law?
Commissioners are reminded that if with respect to any matter or any person coming before the commission today, 1, you have received a gift or loan, 2, you have a pecuniary interest, 3, you have a commitment in a private capacity, such as a family, employment, business, or similar relationship, or 4, you provided representation or counseling before an agency to a person or entity for compensation within the last year on a matter being considered tonight, then you must disclose that gift, loan, interest, commitment, or prior representation at the time the matter is being considered. And you must furthermore abstain from deliberation or voting on the matter if it is clear that the gift, loan, interest, commitment, or prior representation would materially affect the independence of judgment of a reasonable person. Commissioners are also reminded that under the Planning Commission rules, if you have had any contact outside this meeting with any persons interested in a matter coming before the commission today, you should disclose the nature of that contact at this meeting.
Thank you, Council Edwards. Mr. Lloyd, Secretary Lloyd, could you read the appeal procedure, please?
Most decisions rendered by the Planning Commission are appealable to the Board of County Commissioners. If you would disagree with the decision of the Planning Commission and you want to appeal its action, you may do so in writing within 10 calendar days from the date that the decision being appealed is signed by the Planning Commission Chair and or the Secretary of the Planning Commission, filed with the Secretary of the Planning Commission and mailed to the original applicant. In the proceeding being appealed in accordance with Washoe County Code, please call the planning staff immediately at 328-6100 for information on the appeal procedure and application fee.
Thank you, Secretary Lloyd. Next is general public comment. General public comment is any person is invited to speak on any item on or off the agenda during this period. Action may not be taken on any matter raised during this public comment period until the matter is specifically listed on an agenda as an action item. Do we have any requests for public comment?
No public comment.
Okay. We need a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to approve.
Commissioner Donchak to approve.
Second.
Haran, second. All in favor?
Aye.
But don't you have to note there's an item code? There's a change in the agenda.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair?
announce the
Yeah,
change.
thank you.
Sorry, can you announce the tally of the votes as we go along? I think that was unanimous, but for the record,
okay.
yes.
Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah, it was unanimous.
Mr. Chair, but you did announce that we had an item pulled from the agenda?
If I can get clarification, and I don't know if, looking at legal, might be too late to pull it, but just an announcement that Washoe County will be recommending that we continue.
Postpone, continue.
Continue item 9B. I'll make sure that's the correct one. That was for Bennington Court, so that anybody in the audience
Yeah.
that's here for that item.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, now you got me screwed up. Okay.
Does that mean we table
What the
it?
hell am I? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of the August 6th, 2019 draft minutes?
Move to approve.
I move to second.
Commissioner Savilicek made the motion, and Commissioner Donchak made the second. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Okay. Item 8, planning items. 8A is a presentation on the trucking, 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan update, including the draft plan policy concepts, the process undertaken in updating the plan, current progress in updating the plan, and when it's expected that the update will be adopted.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. I'm Jeremy Smith. I'm the Interim Director of the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Agency. That's actually just thing on. Yeah, okay. There we go. That's actually a fairly recent change that our previous director, Kim Robinson, has taken a position in Massachusetts. And so I've been working with the Regional Planning Governing Board and signed a contract. So for up to a year, you'll be looking at me. And hopefully I'll have a haircut soon, because when we adopt this regional plan that I'm about to tell you about, it's going away. Okay, so the 2019 regional plan. Some of you that sit on the Regional Planning Commission have been along for the ride for the whole period of time. Others, I think I've come and spoken to you maybe once or twice about the plan process so far. So here's kind of hopefully the final update. All right, so we've been working towards this new regional plan, which really constitutes a substantive change to the regional planning framework in the region since early 2016, and possibly even before. You can look at this pyramid we've got on the slide here, and it basically indicates the kind of things we've been doing to lead up to that pinnacle of the pyramid, the draft plan. And so on the left, bottom left, we have something called supportive efforts. You guys may remember that we worked on a study called the Industrial Land Needs Analysis. So that was one of the studies we did to kind of help support getting our data together, getting ready to make this plan a little more data intensive. Also, our housing study, which came out in December of 2016, I believe, was a supportive effort that we kind of built on. Other foundational work that we engaged in included a program at Portland State University. It was called the Urban Sustainability Accelerator Program. Through that, we learned about regional planning across the country. We found out that, in fact, our state statute is rather unique, but there is a lot of regional planning going on in the country, just nothing set up exactly like ours. But we got some good information from that. We did a deep dive into transit-oriented development, and we brought those concepts to bear into what we were putting forth as the draft plan as well. So moving up into the gray bar, the kind of middle area, scenario planning. So this was an idea that really came out of the housing study, that we could look at different futures, and that could tell us something about different impacts in the future. Well, we continued down that path for the regional plan update, and we created 2 additional scenarios, so a total of 4 scenarios of how our community could grow over the next 20 years. That was based on our consensus forecast. About 107,000 people in 20 years was the most recent forecast. And what kind of housing products would we see? Where would they go? Where would jobs go? And then we measured 14 different impacts of that in an attempt to understand what might be a better idea. Often there's not a right answer, but there's an understanding of trade-offs. So the scenarios definitely gave us that sort of window into that. And then finally, we had a tremendous amount of policy evaluation and development that went into building this draft plan. When we started with the 2012 regional plan, which really kind of came out of earlier regional plans in the 2000s, there were 140 goals and policies in there. It was a very technical document that was difficult to approach. And so we took the tack of trying to eliminate redundancies, especially if they were redundancies in a state law or something that we already had to be following no matter what, and really boil it down to, I think we got to about 65 policies now that really focus in on what we're trying to do. All along the way, you can see those little circles. We have tried to be engaging the community. We've held, I don't know, on the order of 8 or 10 lunch and learns where we have folks come in to the RTC building over there and we talk about the plan. We did a couple of community conversations about affordable housing, about scenario planning. We've been talking to this body, right, the Regional Planning Commission, Regional Planning Governing Board, trying to get out there. One way that we really engaged was with staff, and we created something called the Regional Plan Update Working Group, where we met for about 2 years, every week, up to 2 hours, sometimes more, where we really hammered out the policy components of the plan. And one of the reasons that this process has been taking so long is directly related to that. But what we've achieved is a consensus of the staff level people that are going to be using this plan. And so that's a really positive aspect, because often the regional plan can be somewhat contentious. So we think we've got a good consensus, and we're on a path to get to adoption, because now we have a draft plan. And by the way, that draft plan is available for anyone to download from the public at plantruckymeadows.org. You'll hear that website probably come up again and again. But plantruckymeadows.org, you can go there and download the plan and see it. It's still a draft. Some of the overall changes, I kind of mentioned that previously the document was incredibly technical. We've made it more approachable for humans, and so hopefully you can read it and sort of understand what it means. We have this new tool of scenario planning, which we're going to continue to use, and that really ties in with the concept of annual reporting using data. You know, absorption rates, what kind of products are we building, where are they locating, what are the implications, and especially what are the implications for public service and infrastructure provision. One of the major initiatives that we plan to embark on after we get the plan adopted is something we're calling the PIP, or it stands for Public Infrastructure Investment Plan. And it's really a way for us to help coordinate all the good facility planning work that's happening in the community. Certainly, we're not trying to say we know where we need to put infrastructure, but we do want to have a hand in helping to integrate master planning decision-making with our understanding of facilities planning. So that's something we feel like we could do better, and that's going to be a major initiative coming out of the plan. And also, of course, as I mentioned, cleaning up the policies. And then a really important point is we are focusing back in on our statute that really lays out very clearly what the contents of the regional plan ought to be. And it's generally can be sort of categorized into these 5 bins. First up, population projections. That's something we're doing with the consensus forecast anyhow, and so now we've built that right into the plan. Regional form and pattern. We're really kind of trying to stop sprawl and promote infill without sort of destroying existing neighborhoods. That's that kind of second one. Conserving natural resources. This is another initiative that we plan to take on after adoption, along with the PIP, is a holistic natural resources plan. Washoe County is going to be instrumental in achieving that because you guys as an entity have done such great work planning for natural resources and open space. So we plan to build on that work and work together to create a full regional natural resources plan and map sensitive areas that probably should be avoided in terms of development. And then I talked about the PIP, this idea of right in the NRS of efficient public facility and service provision. And then, of course, our job as facilitators and intergovernmental coordinators, bringing together all of the jurisdictional staff, affected entities, the Western Regional Water Commission, TUMWA, the RTC, all these different, the Airport Authority, everyone that participates in planning in this region. We try to do the best we can to bring them all to the table together and understand how it all fits together. So that's kind of the direction. Now I'm going to pass it on to Nate Kusha, our policy analyst, who's going to talk about the actual contents of the plan.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. As Jeremy said, I'm Nate Kusha, Policy Analyst with TMRPA. So that was kind of some background information, and now we'll go ahead and walk through kind of the draft plan as it stands today. So as with any document, there's of course an introduction. It has things like acknowledgements, how to use the document, general discussion about TMRPA, who we are, what we do. And the other sections of the plan are listed up here, and we'll walk through those briefly. So Chapter 1 is setting the stage. This is where you're going to find information such as regional planning in the Truckee Meadows, including TMRPA and all the agencies who have kind of a key role in the regional plan and who deal with it. It also describes the regional plan, including its purpose and the process that was undertaken to update it. After Chapter 1, we have what we're calling an interlude. The first one's called Looking Back, and this is really kind of to provide the reader with some context, and it's a history of development in our region, the Truckee Meadows, over the last, it's about 1970s or even before that. It goes by decades. It tells you how we've developed, just to set some context as you read further into the plan. Chapter 2 is called Regional Vision for Growth. This contains information on the regional goals, which were adopted by our governing board, and discusses the scenario planning process kind of in depth, including the development, results, and evaluation of the 4 scenarios, and the tie to the desired regional form. It also contains what we have as Map 2, called our Regional Form Map, which is also contained in this chapter. And that's really a map that's been worked on for a while, came out of the scenarios, and it's really showing how our region, or how we'd like our region to grow, and we'll show that in a little bit as in relation to the policies. After Chapter 2, we have another interlude called the Scenario Metrics. This is kind of a deeper look at the scenario planning process that was undertaken throughout the update and really gets into the details of the data and metric and outputs from those 4 scenarios. And we have Chapter 3, Implementation of the Regional Vision. This is kind of the meat of the plan. This is where all the policies live. They're broken up into the 5 policy elements you can see overhead. To our population growth, regional form, public facilities and services, natural resources, and regional coordination. We'll go ahead and walk through some of those kind of key policy concepts. So the first one we have is the consensus forecast. This is something that TMRP already does. Currently, it lives as a separate document. We've been doing it for quite a few years now. And what we found is that it's a little bit kind of inaccessible. Being a separate document, we have a lot of different places you have to go to find this information. So we've decided to kind of adopt it right into the regional plan itself. So it's kind of a one-stop shop for all this sort of information on population projections and growth. Next, we have the tiering concept. This is the introduction of what we're calling our regional land uses. And this is really a way to refine the TMSA as it currently is. And that brings us to our regional form maps. So what I was discussing earlier, this is really the way to refine the TMSA. It's really getting at what NRS tells us to do, which is kind of limiting that premature expansion, while also finding that balance and maintaining our neighborhood character. So we have 4 tiers within the TMSA and then another land designation outside of the TMSA. So the 4 within the TMSA, we have the mixed-use core. That's kind of our downtown core areas of our region where we want to see the most growth and the highest density. This is already based on the 2 cities' mixed-use areas. It aligns with that. Following that, we have Tier 1. This, along with the mixed-use core, these are the areas that we really want to prioritize our investments in our region when it comes to public facilities and services. We want to see growth. We want to invest there. Followed by that, we have Tier 2. This is where we have infrastructure currently. And so it goes out quite a ways, as you can see. And we still expect some growth here, but it's at a lower kind of density, more of that suburban kind of level. And finally, we have Tier 3. This is where we don't really know if we have the infrastructure services there to provide for more development. And so we need more analysis before we open that up for those development. And after that, we have the rural area, as explained, and that is a really low density outside the TMSA. We don't expect services to be provided there or extended from the TMSA. And that's at a really low density of 1 unit per 5 acres. All right, then we have refinement of our public facilities and service provision. This is kind of a replacement of our current concurrency management system. And it's really just a refinement of it. It lets us ask a little bit more questions. It's really kind of a placeholder. We have some knowledge of things that we know we need for development, right? Where it comes to water, wastewater, all those sorts of things, transportation. And so requiring you to tell us kind of how you're providing these things, right? But we also know that we don't have all the data information yet to really hone in on all of that information. And that brings us to the Public Infrastructure Investment Plan, like Jeremy mentioned. This is kind of a collaborative effort. It's going to take a while. We're working with all the local jurisdictions, service providers, everyone we can think of in the region to get kind of a cohesive place where all of the infrastructure and service provisioning information is kept. We're not trying to tell people where you have to provide services or infrastructure. We just want to know where it's currently being planned for. Everybody has a handle on that. We just want to have that information available to us, to you guys, and to the public. Then we have our natural resources plan. So in our new plan, we have refined our natural resources section, beefed it up a little bit, but we are lacking, yet again, the data and information to really hone in on the key specifics of what requirements we should have for that. So we've set forth this natural resources plan in our work plan. It's going to be a collaborative effort. And as Jeremy mentioned, we're going to map those natural resources. That's actually something that's required by us from NRS, state statute, to do. We don't have that map ready yet. We're going to be working on that and adopting it into the plan once the natural resources plan is complete. And then finally, we have what we're calling the Truckee Meadows Annual Report. This is going to be an annual report on tracking all sorts of different metrics and data as we go along. Things like land utilization, how many different land uses have been changed, master plan amendments have been done, regional plan amendments have been done, how many tier amendments have been done, things of this nature, so that we're able to report back to our commission and our board to show kind of a tracker of how we're doing to get towards our regional goals that they adopted. Are we doing well? Do we need to adjust, make some amendments? or are we not? And that brings us to the last section of the plan. Another interlude called Moving Forward. This is really a discussion about the wider region. We recognize that, I have jurisdiction over our region here, but there are other effects that are felt outside of our region, whether it's Story County, Lyon County, things like Trick, all have an effect on us, just like we have an effect on them. So recognizing that we need collaboration with them as well. And then finally, we have our appendix materials, things like definitions, the adopted consensus forecast will be contained here, our projects of regional significance guidelines will also be kept here, all the information you need to get a better understanding throughout the plan. And then all throughout the plan, we're having these things that we call call-out boxes. These are things to help readers kind of get more information and things that are relevant. So we have things like quotes. We did a oral history that we did through funding from one of our governing board members, actually. And so we'll have quotes through that throughout the plan. We have engagement boxes, kind of scenario or survey results, rather. And then we have other references from other documents. We had a large climate change scenariative, we're calling it, which is a scenario narrative. And so things like that are kind of put throughout the plan to make it engaging and give you some more context as you read. So with that, we have our next step. Currently, we're reviewing the draft plan. We have a meeting with our regional planning commission next week, and we've been engaging with them throughout. Our regional planning governing board, we're talking over the draft with them, our stakeholders, the general public. We have some, we're calling lunch and learns with our stakeholders this week. We did one last week. We have a large community conversation that's going to be on September 18th. We encourage you all to come. And that's going to be a large forum thing for everybody to come see the new plan, get kind of a presentation on things contained with it, and really get the public's input on the plan and how they feel about it. And then we have 3 Regional Planning Commission meetings scheduled for September 25th, 26th, and 27th. Those are required by NRS. Those are going to be the 3 meetings one in Reno, one in Washoe County, and one in the city of Sparks. And that will be hopefully on the last one of those to recommend adoption, if everything goes well, to our governing board. And that meeting will be on October 10th. Everything goes well, we're hoping to have it adopted then. So with that, we're ready for any questions or any feedback you guys may have.
Mr. Svelter.
You said that meeting was October 10th. That's a Thursday?
Correct. That's the Regional Planning Governing Board regularly scheduled meeting.
Adoption, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Haran.
Figure out how my, there it is. You talked about interfaces with all the other parts of the region, I guess. How is that working the same way like up at the lake where you have to interact with both Nevada counties, California state, Tahoe regional planning, all the other stuff? Do you have the same type of energy to interface with those folks as well? Because there's certainly some challenges that area faces.
Great question. I think it's quite a bit more complicated and tougher up there, but it is laid out how we should be interacting, and the main form is that we have a regional plan, and it is required that local jurisdictional master plans, so Reno, Sparks, and Washoe County, and also affected entity plans are in conformance. And so that's really the regulatory role that we play, is that the planning documents conform with the regional plan. And what will happen after our adoption is that all of the existing jurisdictional master plans and affected entity plans will come back to conformance with the new plan. And we'll have a schedule of how we can bring everything in line. So that's kind of our regulatory aspect. I don't know if that helped to answer the question.
Not much.
Okay.
Well, how does that, how do you interact with Douglas County? How do you interact with California?
Right now, with Douglas County and California, it's an email or a phone call. We try.
So there really isn't any.
There's nothing structural that forces it, no. Our statute is to Washoe County, and excluding the RPA lands and excluding tribal lands. That's what our jurisdiction comprises. But that doesn't mean that we're not talking to them and trying to participate. We participated in the Western Nevada Development District stuff, early on, Recharge Nevada, the EPIC study, the freshen up of the EPIC study, and we're committed to building that, but there is no formal requirement necessarily.
So it's a challenge.
It's a challenge.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any further questions?
I hope to see you guys on the 18th at the Discovery Museum. Thank you very much for your time tonight. and
Thanks,
for
Jeremy.
listening.
Thanks, Nate.
Have a great night.
Okay, we're going to move on. We're going to go into public hearings, and the first one is the Washoe County Planning Commission also wears another hat, and so we're at this time going to convene on agenda item 9A, and it'll be heard by the Planning Commission, who will simultaneously also convene as the Capital Improvements Advisory Committee, including Capital Improvements Advisory Committee member Kenneth Crater. Those of you that were here last year remember Ken, for this item only. And then I think you're going to read the item. Thank you.
Will do. Okay, this, for possible action pursuant to NRS 278B.150 and Washoe County Code 110-706-05 to recommend approval to the Washoe County Board of Commissioners for amendments to the Regional Road Impact Fee General Administrative Manual and the RRIF, the RRIF Capital Improvement Plan with revised fees. The RRIF is an NRS Chapter 278B impact fee designed to generate revenue for the construction of regional roads and associated improvements in the community that was first passed in 1996 and has since been periodically amended upon the adoption of the Regional Transportation Commission of updated versions of the GAM, CIP, and fees, changes to the dollars per vehicle mile traveled and updates to vehicle miles traveled for the land use categories, resulting in revised fees in both the north and south service areas. The north service area generally covers areas in the county to the north of Interstate 80, east of the California-Nevada state line, to the eastern boundaries of the Warm Springs and Spanish Springs planning areas. To south, the south service area generally covers areas in the county to the south of Interstate 80, east of the California-Nevada state line, to the South Valley's planning area boundary, and south to the forest area plan increase in some categories in the north. The revised fees range from a 43% decrease in some categories to a 47% increase in some categories in the north service area, and a 53% decrease in some of the fees, and is based on the most recent version of the CIP in effect and is calculated according to the formula set forth in the GAM. The current amendments to the GAM consist of the 6th edition RRIF GAM that has been approved by the RTC for recommendation to governing bodies of the county and cities, as well as associated updates to the CIP and the fees. In order to act on this item, the Planning Commission will convene as the NRS 278B-150 Capital Improvement Advisory Committee and will hear a presentation by RTC staff to further provide further information and answer questions concerning the amendments. If approved, authorize the chair to sign a resolution to that effect that also recommends the adoption of necessary ordinances to implement these amendments. And with that, from the RTC, staff is here. Ms. Julie Masterpool.
Thank you. Again, for the record, Julie Masterpool, Engineering Manager with the RTC. And to give a little bit more background also, impact fees, as Trevor mentioned, are authorized under NRS 278B, implemented through adoption of the local ordinances and jointly administered by RTC, Washoe County, the cities of Sparks and Reno through an interlocal cooperative agreement. This program is also overseen by the RRIF, or Regional Road Impact Fee Technical Advisory Committee, which is comprised of 15 members, 2 from RTC, 3 from each of the local jurisdictions, and 4 members from the development community. We also have 4 RRIF administrators, 1 from each jurisdiction and 1 from RTC. There are a lot of acronyms and abbreviations associated with this program, so I'll do my best to kind of explain them as I go along. New development impacts public infrastructure, requiring the need to expand existing services to accommodate growth. Impact fees are a funding tool for building additional capacity due to that new development. Fees are based on roadway capacity improvements identified in a capital improvement plan. Now, NRS, as discussed earlier, requires a Capital Improvements Advisory Committee whose responsibilities do include review of the land use assumptions used in developing the capital improvement plan, review of the capital improvement list of projects, review of the impact fees that are charged to new development, and to recommend, hopefully, approval of the General Administrative Manual to the Board of County Commissioners. In order to develop an impact fee program, we need to determine how and where growth is anticipated to occur, and also the capacity projects needed to accommodate that growth. And this is kind of a basic outline of the steps that are involved in developing the fees. We use known land uses, land use assumptions to assess what type and where growth is planned, and the development of the regional transportation, the RTP, identifying the needed capacity improvements, and then determination of new development's fair share of that capital improvement plan, and finally, the impact fee rates and the fee schedule that is charged on individual development types. Now, land use assumptions used in development of the RRIF fees are based on the adopted Washoe Reno Sparks Master Plan and the 2016 Consensus Forecast. I was very fortunate that we had TMRPA here just previous. The population and employment growth for the Consensus Forecast is distributed throughout Washoe County using TMRPA's land development model that assesses the likelihood and timing of development on a parcel-by-parcel basis using a variety of suitability factors. And this data is imported into the RTC's travel demand model, which predicts the traffic volumes on the regional road network over future timeframes. And this helps us determine when and where we need the capacity projects on the regional road network. Now, this is an example of Pioneer Meadows, an approved project, and the land uses that are identified in the project handbook yield the densities that are loaded into TMRPA's model. And these houses and employment uses are converted to VMTs, or vehicle miles traveled, which use the trip generation, or ADT, average daily trips, caused by a particular land use and multiplying it by the average trip that's on the regional road network. Now, VMTs is the basis service units that we use for the impact fee program. Now, the regional transportation plan is the plan for the Truckee Meadows that identifies the capacity projects needed that are identified through the travel demand model and included into various timeframes. A near term, or the first 5 years of the RTP, a midterm, the next 5 years, and then a long-term 10 to 20-year period. Now, these two maps show the projects that are listed in the 2040 Regional Transportation Plan that are needed in both the near and the midterm, which comprises the 10-year timeframe that we use for the RRIF capital improvement plans. Now, NRS restricts an impact fee service area from encompassing an entire city or county if the population is greater than 15,000. So in order to meet this requirement, we use two separate service areas, the north and the south, which is divided by Interstate 80. And this also requires that we divide all of those projects that were listed in the RTP that first 10 years by service area and develop separate and independent capital improvement plans and resulting fees, each one for the north and one for the south service area. And I believe in Exhibit H of your packet is a listing of all of the capacity projects divided up by the service area for the capital improvement plan. Now, RRIF fees are based on the total cost of the capacity projects that are listed in the CIP, minus any other funds that we anticipate we're going to use to build those projects, which might be federal, state, and even some local funds. The resulting cost is new development's fair share of the capital improvement plan. Growth by service area, again measured in that VMT, vehicle miles traveled, is based on the information from the TMRPA development model and RTC's travel demand model over that same 10-year time frame. So the RRIF rate is, for each service area, is basically the result of new development's fair share of the capital improvement plan divided by the growth in VMTs for that same 10-year time. And the results for the 6th edition are, for the north, we have a $321 per VMT and about $313 per VMT for the south. Now, this slide shows a comparison between the current 5th edition that's in effect today and what our proposed 6th edition is showing. Now, again, the capital improvement plan for the 5th edition was based on the 2035 RTP, and the 6th edition was based on the most recent 2040 Regional Transportation Plan. Projects that were completed off the 2035 were dropped off into the 2040 plan. We had new projects that were added. So the difference between those two plans are basically over a separate 2 10-year timeframes. The VMT growth in the 5th edition was based on the 2012 consensus forecast over the time period of 2014 to 2024. And this current 6th edition is based on the 2016 consensus forecast for a time period of 2019 to 2029. And as you can see with the 6th edition, we do show higher growth anticipated in the north service area than we did in the 5th edition. There was more growth predicted in the south service area under the previous version. Overall, the dollar per VMT rates did increase for the 6th edition. It was a greater increase in the north service area, mainly because we have a lot more projects anticipated in the north service area that are on the capital improvement plan, where the growth is what we're seeing, where the growth is. Now, also, impact fees are charged new development at the building permit stage, and they're based on the type of land use, single-family home, multifamily home, or retail. We have a variety of land uses. So I give an example here of some of the common ones that are assessed through the impact fee program. Some of the changes for those land uses are based on, for each individual development type, we use the average daily traffic out of the ITE trip generation manual. It's the same numbers that you typically see with traffic impact fee studies that are submitted with projects that you approve. These numbers were updated based on the 10th edition of the ITE trip generation manual. And one of the things that we found were that many of the employment type uses were actually a little bit lower for the average ADT than they were in the previous edition. And that's some of the results that we found, that the fees actually went down in some cases. And again, that was due to the updated ITE trip generation rates. Now, in the far right column, I've kind of outlined what the differences are between the 6th edition and the 5th edition for those fees. Obviously, single-family home, multifamily homes increased in both north and south service area. Retail and warehouse actually went down with the 6th edition. Now, in addition to the capital improvement plan, there's a companion manual called the General Administrative Manual. And basically, this provides guidelines and procedures to administer the program. And there were really only 2 notable changes that we made for this update. The first being that state buildings are exempt from the payment of impact fees. And this was based on an opinion by the state attorney general that a local jurisdiction cannot impose a fee on a state facility. This has actually been in effect since 1997, and we just included it for documentation purposes in the manual. I also do want to note that per NRS, public schools and federal buildings are also exempt from impact fees. And the second modification involves the timing of approval of impact fee offset agreements. Now, one of the things that NRS requires that if a developer builds a project that's on the capital improvement plan, his fees must be adjusted or waived to reduce the offset. This provision allows us to go ahead and enter into an agreement with the developer, knowing that a project is going to be on an upcoming RRIF capital improvement plan. And basically, that's because the approval process for getting the 6th edition adopted involves numerous presentations to the RTC board, to the RTC Technical Advisory Committee and Citizen Multimodal Advisory Committee, each of the planning commissions for all 3 jurisdictions, and then 2 readings at each of the public agencies, because it is an ordinance. So that takes quite a bit of time. So this allows a project to go ahead and start construction on a project that's going to be in the upcoming CIP. And as long as they have an agreement in place within 12 months of when they start construction, they'll be able to earn impact fee waivers to help offset their impact fees for the cost of the improvements of what they're building off the capital improvement plan. This allowed projects like Pioneer Meadows over in Sparks to start construction on Wingfield Hills Road, with the anticipation that if this is adopted, they will be able to earn impact fee waivers for that expense that they're building the roadway. Now, since the beginning of our RRIF program, we've seen our network grow quite significantly since 1996. We've collected about almost $100 million in impact fee revenue, which in turn has been used to build capacity improvements throughout the network. In addition, new development, as I mentioned on the previous slide, new development has built $204 million of roadway improvements associated with their development plans. This slide kind of indicates the different projects that have been completed off of the 5th edition. We've completed the Southeast Connector. 4th and Prater has been, the BRT project has been completed. We've had 2 major intersection projects that have been completed off this plan, McCarran in North Virginia and Pyramid in McCarran. A couple of other projects, Southeast McCarran, widening was completed under the 5th edition. We have quite a few projects that are currently underway. Virginia Street BRT, Keystone, Audie Wells. We're just now starting the Sparks Boulevard widening project. We're getting underway for preliminary design. And then we have some future projects that we anticipate we're going to get to within this 10-year timeframe of the CIP. And with that, I would like to say that we have presented to the RRIF Technical Advisory Committee back in March. We presented to the RTC's Technical and Citizen and Multimodal Advisory Committee in May 1st, and the RTC board approved this on May the 20th. We've presented to the Sparks Planning Commission, the Reno Planning Commission, City of Sparks City Council has had their 2 readings for the ordinance, so they're completed. And then we're here tonight. So with that, I'd like to conclude my presentation and answer any questions.
Any questions? Ken? Commissioner Frater, excuse me.
Thank you. I have a few questions here. First of all, just a couple of housekeeping items. As I go here for the 100th time over the last 20 years, right? I see things like the guidelines for traffic reports, the street cross sections, and the access management standards. And I would love someday if RTC could coordinate with the 3 agencies and get all the agencies to adopt similar standards for all those items, because that would help reduce development costs for the community. And with the housing costs today, I think that would be a laudable thing to try and achieve over the next couple of years. Absolutely. Then I like your introduction to the calculation of the fees based on trip length, pass by and diverted link trips. I think that's really important for people to understand, especially in light of what you found with some of the employment uses. What this is telling me, which I think is important both for the RRIF as well as regional planning, is that we're finding that areas where we create a jobs housing balance, that people want to live close to work, right? They don't want to have to drive 30 miles from their house to where they work, right? So to me, this is telling us that we're doing a better job planning, that we're starting to put more employment out in those areas. And I think that has to be a pretty significant reason behind some of those big drops. And I read in the meeting minutes from the RTC meeting where I think it was Commissioner Lucy or Commissioner Hartung asked a question that the trip generation manual typically shows 10 trips per single-family residential dwelling unit, but you're using 8.5. So I presume in addition to the 10th edition, you're also using a lot of local data.
Correct. For the residential, we're using local Washoe County data that we've obtained, and it falls within the general wide range of what's in the ITE trip generation manual, but it is on the lower end. It's not the straight average.
Good, good. And then one question I have is if you go to the exhibits for the North and South capital improvement plans, it shows two columns. It shows a column that has RTP dollars and a column that shows 2019 dollars for North or South. Can you explain the difference between those two?
Sure. In the RTP, when we're putting that project together, or that document together, they use the midpoint of those timeframes to assume what the cost of those individual projects are, because they don't know at the level of the RTP when a project is actually going to be constructed. So if it's the first 5 years, they use the 2.5-year mid-mark. Same thing with the next 5 years in the future. So we bring it back, those costs, back to the current day 2019 cost in order to develop the impact fee.
Great, thank you for that. And then related to the costs then, a lot of the items in the RTP that then make it into the North and South Capital Improvement Plan have to do with sidewalks, multimodal improvements that don't add additional traffic carrying capacity, which is why the Regional Road Impact Fee Program was originally intended. And last year, when I was here, we talked about the Keystone Bridge, and you said that RTC does account for those cost differential between traffic capacity and improvements that might be maintenance related or pedestrian improvements. Can you explain how that works?
Sure. The RTP includes all of the projects we anticipate going to be built, whether they be ADA, bridge replacements, our pavement maintenance programs included in the RTP. However, impact fees are limited to just capacity projects. So all of those other projects that are maintenance, safety related, ADA related, we cannot use impact fee revenue to build those projects. So we back those projects out of the capital improvement plan. Now, multimodal projects, interestingly enough, do provide a benefit to both new development and to existing development. So for all of those multimodal projects that are in there, we developed a percentage of that value of those costs for multimodal projects that would be a benefit to new development. And so that a small portion of those projects are included in the cost of the capital improvement plan. So it's like 14 to 18%, depending on if you're in the north or south.
Great. I would love to see some additional data moving forward in the subsequent years that explain that better. Because as you know, one of the reasons you spend so much money on legal counsel going through this thing is so you don't get sued down the road if you misappropriate dollars, right? And I think it's important to have that background in here so it's clearly understood by the reader that you do account for those differences in cost.
Okay, and usually in the capital improvement plan, we do try and describe that, but I'll review again, make sure that we do a little better job to show that we exclude those expenses in the RTP that aren't eligible for RRIF program.
And I also think that's especially important from the standpoint of Washoe County, because if you're reading this and don't understand it, you would think this favors the city of Reno, right? That has, I mean, they're the body and sparks that have all those sidewalk and multimodal improvements, yet if you live in the county and you drive out the Warm Springs on the Pyramid Highway, where there's now 70,000 cars a day by Eagle Canyon Road, which is about the same at 395 at Parr Boulevard, you're going, wait a minute, why aren't those impact fees going out here, right, to deal with the capacity problems? So I just think it's really important to do a thorough job of explaining some of that, because I think that's a pretty significant issue. And then the last thing I have is just in terms of over years, we've reduced the categories of the different land use types, right, that are assessed fees. And one of the new things that's come up that I've been involved with recently is student apartments. And there's some recent data in the 10th edition of the trip generation manual that show that student apartments have much different trip generation characteristics than multifamily. And that difference is exacerbated if you're either very close to campus within walking distance, or if you're way off campus where they're more likely to have to take some sort of transit or vehicle trip to get there. And so I would like to see maybe a little bit of analysis in the upcoming year that maybe there's some other categories we need to bring back in, because if you want to promote that urban infill, I think anything we can do to say that, hey, if you're developing in an urban area, you have less traffic impacts because it's very walkable and hence your fees are lower.
And that's a great idea. We do have the ability to do an administrative or an independent fee calculation for new uses that hadn't been identified before, so that's definitely something that we can incorporate fairly quickly.
Excellent. And then time frame for implementation.
Well, I do still have to present to the Board of County Commission once it passes here at the Planning Commission level. And then I also need to make 2 presentations over to the City of Reno City Council. I don't have dates yet for the Reno City Council. I'm anticipating it'll probably be in October. We like to give a 30-day notice to all the development communities that the fees are changing. So I'm thinking it'll probably be in November, early December, when the new fees will go into effect.
That's all my questions. That was plenty, right?
That was good, Mr. Crater. That was very good. Any other questions of the presenter?
I don't have questions, but I just was going through it, and there's a lot of typographical errors in there, areas where there's no periods, or it'll start a sentence and then there's a big gap and the sentence continues elsewhere throughout there. But there are a couple of things that I found, and on one of them, it's in A and H, but on page, what was it? There's page 48. There's a number 6, but there's nothing written under number 6, just the number 6.
Oh.
So I don't know if there's something missing or if it just wasn't removed.
It might be. Very good catch. We'll make sure that we go through it one more time for all of those typos.
I
Thank
found one more under the tables for Table 8 and Table 9, where Table 8 is for the north service area, but at the very bottom, it references the south service area.
Okay.
So
We'll make
just
those
some general stuff
adjustments.
throughout there.
Thank you.
Otherwise, thank you very much. I really appreciate all the hard work and effort that went into making this understandable.
Great, thank you.
Any further questions from the commission? Is there any public comment? Do we do public comment on this? Do we have any public comment on this?
I have no cards for public comment.
Okay, seeing there's no public comment, any discussion within the commission on the item? Then I guess I'd call for a motion. Commissioner Crater.
I will move that the Washoe County Capital Improvement Advisory Committee recommends approval to adopt the 6th edition of the Regional Road Impact Fee General Administrative Manual, Capital Improvement Plan, and revised fees for unincorporated Washoe County to the Washoe County Board of Commissioners, and authorize the chair to sign the resolution on behalf of the Capital Improvements Advisory Committee, and I make that motion based on all the information contained in the staff report and in the public hearing today.
Any discussion on the motion?
I'll second.
Second, okay.
Sarah did.
We have a motion by Commissioner Crater, second by Commissioner Shvelchek. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Now, we'll bring, that closes the Capital Improvements Advisory Committee meeting, and I'll bring it back to the Washoe County Planning Commission meeting. And we'll be looking at item 9B, which I believe has been continued.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, item 9B was inappropriately noticed. It, unfortunately, that was caught after the postings of the agenda. So this item, we do have to open it up for public hearing, and then the recommendation is to continue it to the October meeting.
So, okay, hold on one second here, because I want to take a quick look. My recollection of the way this goes is that you would do a motion to continue it, if that's what you want to do. I mean, I think that the agenda provides that there's no public comment on a continued item. But not to despair, because if someone really does want to make public comment on this, they could hang out till item 12 and make public comment at that time on this item, so.
Would it hurt just to ask if there's any public comment right
So
now?
the problem with that is that your agenda says that there won't be, so it would be conflicted with your agenda. So I'd recommend just sticking to what the agenda says.
Okay. So we need a motion to continue the item?
So moved. Second.
Commissioner Bruce makes a motion. Commissioner Haran seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
Is there a date, I'm sorry, Trevor, is there a date that would be continued to? Do we know now, so anybody who's here or watching can know?
It's the first Tuesday of October. I don't have that date in front of me. Oh, I'm sorry, thank you. October 1st, it will be continued to. Thank you.
Okay. Move to item 9C, master, with Trevor. Fire that one off.
I'll try to get through this as quickly as I can. This is Master Plan Amendment, case number WMPA 190003 for Village Green. For possible action, hearing, and discussion to amend the Washoe County Master Plan, Spanish Springs Area Plan, and Appendix D, the Village Green Commerce Center specific plan, and if approved, to authorize the chair to sign a resolution to this effect. Any approval would be subject to further approval by Washoe County Board of County Commissioners and a finding of conformance with the Truckee Meadows Regional Plan by the Regional Planning Authorities. If approved, the amendment would include the following. 1, amend the Spanish Springs Area Plan Policy SS51 to exclude the Village Green Commerce Center specific plan as specified within the plan. 2, update the Village Green Commerce Center specific plan assessors parcel numbers to reflect the removal of APN 534-56109, which was removed from the specific plan in 2014. 3, update the Village Green Commerce Center specific plan maps, figure D1 location map, D2 specific plan land uses, D5 business park buffering, in order to reflect the removal of APN 534-56109. 4, update the Village Green Commerce Center specific plan goal 1 under specific plan goals for protect the natural environment to add the language where feasible. 5, increase the building height from 40 feet to, increase the building height to 40 feet from 35 feet in the Village Green Commerce Center specific plan for APN 534-56110. 6, replace the Western theme architecture standard and with contemporary industrial theme standards in the Village Green Commerce Center specific plan for APN 534-56110. 7, change the landscaping requirement from 20% to 15% in the Village Green Commerce Center specific plan for APN 534-56110. 8, remove Village Green Commerce Center specific plan phasing standards as the existing phasing plan is outdated and no longer functions properly with the proposed specific plan changes. 9, remove the sustainability standards in the Village Green Commerce Center specific plan for APN 534-56110 and require future development to comply with all Washoe County code requirements. And 10, remove Village Green Commerce Center specific plan maintenance contact information and update the definition of the master developer. With that, and to present for Washoe County is our planner, Julie Olander.
Good evening, Julie Olander with Planning and Building. This is an application for the Village Green Commerce Center plan. It's primarily for one parcel within the plan. This plan is part of the Spanish Springs Area Plan. It's Appendix D. And the requests, as Trevor read forth, are basically addressing the height, replacing the Western theme architectural standards, changing the landscaping requirements, and removing the sustainability standards for the one parcel for 534-56110. And then staff is also requesting to remove the language in the Spanish Springs Area Plan addressing the Western theme architectural standards, update the plan's maps and parcel numbers to what's currently should be in the plan, remove the phasing standards, and then also remove the maintenance and contact information. Here's a layout of the plan area. You see on the left there are 2 parcels that are considered open space, and then 2 other parcels that are master planned and zoned industrial. The little parcel in between the 2 open space and the industrial was part of the plan, but has been removed. Just to give you a little background on the plan area, it was developed to provide industrial uses that were adjacent to residential, and so they developed this plan to make it more compatible. And as I said, the plan has basically 4 parcels in it that have different zoning and master planning. I did try to contact the parcel owner of the other industrial parcel. However, I never received any information back from them. I sent them certified mail, and they didn't contact me to be included in these changes. The applicant is requesting these changes primarily to make the plan more updated for the 1 parcel. The height would accommodate any new types of equipment that is typically found in industrial buildings now. The western theme is a little dated. They're proposing more industrial type look of developing the buildings more industrial, with a more industrial type look. They're also asking to lower the landscaping from the 20 to 15%, and currently industrial landscaping requirement is 10%. And then they're also asking to remove the sustainability standards. Some of them are outdated, some of them are already in code and addressed that way. So they do have those standards are still somewhat in place because of what's already required in code. Notice was sent to 47 parcels that were 750 feet from the site, and legal notice was posted in the RJG. This was presented to the Spanish Springs CAB. Initially, on June 5th, the CAB denied it. There were concerns about the height, setbacks, landscaping, and the loading docks. However, the applicant made significant changes, took it back to the CAB on August 7th, and after the discussion with the neighbors that were there and so forth, the CAB did approve the amendment. Other agencies that reviewed the application, none of them recommended denial on the application. Staff is able to make the findings, and they're listed in your staff report. And I provide a motion for you. And I'm available for questions. Also, the applicant is here and available for questions.
Is there an applicant presentation?
Good evening. For the record, Mike Rayleigh with Rubicon Design Group, here on behalf of Blackstone Development Group. I know that notice sounds like a mouthful of all those changes, but if you really look at those, most of them are housekeeping items. What this really boils down to, really the significant changes, we are requesting the ability to go to 40 feet, and we have imposed an additional setback requirement, a 1-to-1 setback for any building over 35 feet, which is what's allowed in the plan now. As Julie mentioned, originally we had proposed changes to the buffers and the setbacks and the loading docks. After going to the CAB and then meeting individually with neighbors, we decided to drop that from the request and leave those as is. The reduction in landscape that you see is we're essentially requesting that the interior landscape islands be removed. It's been our experience that if you have truck traffic coming through, they typically run those islands over and they destroy the plant material. So I did a quick calculation of what those would add up to, and it was about 4.8%. So we said, can we go from the 20 to the 15, and that's where that accounts for. So the buffers and all that exterior landscaping will remain as is. That's representative of those internal islands. In meeting with the neighbors, I just want to get a couple things on the record. First, that we have that additional setback for buildings over 35 feet. The property owner to the east currently is isolated and doesn't have a secondary access out. And his culvert washed out recently, and he had no way to get out of his house. So we have agreed, and we'll write it in the plan to provide him a secondary emergency access. That way, if that happens again, he can get out. Same with the property to the existing industrial property to the west. There's nothing specific that says we have to provide access to that, but we're willing to do that, so we'll put that in the plan. Also, it's in the staff report, but to reiterate that on the architecture, we will be using earth tone colors. The theme that's in there now is it references Virginia city-like architecture and talks about hitching posts, and I don't think anybody's going to be riding their horse to work in this area. So I think they're a little outdated and this is more appropriate. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
When we get okay, are there any questions for either presenter from the commission?
I do have a question for staff. In your background report, and it's on page 5 of 9, you reference that parcels 534-561-10 and 08 are master planned and regulatory zoned industrial, while parcels 06 and 07 are master planned as open space. But then you reference the owner of 56108 was contacted by certified mail. So 08 is referenced there twice?
Julie Olander with Planning and Building. I think what I'm stating there is that 08 and 10 are both master planned industrial. And so I'm not sure if I'm following you. So you're saying, and then I also go on to saying that 08 was contacted.
To be included.
To be included, however,
Okay.
they never responded back.
All right, and then your, in background, your blue line or green line, whatever, is just around parcel 10.
Correct.
So 8 is included in industrial.
It is,
Thank you, Mr.
here we
Kim.
go back
Can I-
to this.
Maybe provide clarity here. A part of the problem was the property owner for 08. The applicant really tried to contact this individual. So did staff. The hope was that all the properties, part of the specific plan would be part of the process. It would have made everything a lot easier, a lot less cumbersome. Unfortunately, that didn't work out as planned. And so what you have as a result is kind of an attempt to remove those standards for the one parcel. Unfortunately, we can't remove the standards for both.
Okay, thank you.
Hope that helps.
Yes, it does,
Okay.
thank you.
I also have a question for staff. Sure. Were you able to determine how far the effluent water was from the parcel?
Julie Olander with Planning and Building. Yes, I contacted City Sparks, has the effluent water out there, and I talked to Kevin Porter, who's in charge of the utilities. He indicated, I got an email from him this afternoon, indicated that it would not be feasible at this location, that the effluent, he didn't indicate how far it went out. I believe it does come this far out, but it's on the east side of Pyramid and not on the west side.
Okay.
So, yeah, I did get a response back from him on that.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any further questions of staff or the applicant? We got a little ahead of the plan here, and I need to, before I open this up for public comment, are there any disclosures by any of the commissioners on the part of ethics or ex parte communications with this applicant? Okay, fine. Okay, then I'll open it up for public comment. Do we have any public comment?
No public comment. Bring your card up to me if you'd like to speak.
If you have to fill out a form, turn it into the,
Good evening, Commissioners. It's my first meeting here, and I'm the parcel on your photo there to the far right. And we have about a 10-acre property line that adjoins this industrial revision. The first meeting we had almost 2 years ago was for residential, and it's gone through a couple transitions. We're back at industrial. When we bought our parcel 3 years ago, we knew that this was going to be industrial, and we were okay with it, so we continued on with our purchase. The western theme was horrible, whoever designed that originally. So we're in favor of the industrial plan as it is. I'm concerned about the FEMA floodplain because we're all in a flood zone through there. And at some point, I'd like somebody to look into that to see if anything changes with land heights, that it doesn't increase the flood potential on our property. There is the catch basin that's off of there that Washoe County built years ago that does catch water, but we've been on a property for 2.5 years and we've lost our access road both years in a row. So it's definitely a problem. And it's kind for the developer to, allow us an easement into the industrial park if it goes through to get out. But I'm just concerned, I want to go on record that the FEMA floodplain is looked at in clarity. And again, thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
And we have Mike Wallace.
My name is Mike Wallace. I'm a homeowner in the Bridle Path development. And one thing that I would like to say is that this developer has never contacted any of the homeowners on the southern border of this project. There's a couple of us here tonight. I've been there for 25 years, and I have never been contacted about any of this project. So I just like to get that on record. The other concerns are lighting. If this is going to be an industrial center with commercial warehousing, what are they going to be doing for parking lot lighting? Is that going to be on all night? I got to remind the commission that this is a residential area. I realize this parcel is zoned industrial, but all four sides of this development are surrounded by homes. Right across the street, north side on Cala de Plata, they're building 40 or 50 new houses. We live on the south border of this, and I just can't understand the thinking on putting an industrial building in a residential area like this. There is no commercial property on the east side of Pyramid Highway from Sky Ranch north. There's no commercial buildings. I don't understand the whole process. So I just want to get those concerns out. And I agree with the other gentleman. We've got a flood problem out there. We've been in a floodplain for 25 years until the county did this new flood control project. This development has no access to that flood control project. If it does, it has to go through private property. So I don't know what they're going to do to address that. So anyway, those are my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you.
No further public comment.
Okay, then I'll bring it back to the commission for discussion. Do we have any discussion?
On the
Moran.
question, thank you. On the question of the flooding, don't they have to account for that in the development to make sure that they don't increase the flow, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Like they did out on the other place? Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Then I guess I would call for a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Chevelchek.
it's Chavilicek.
Chevelchek.
I move after giving reasoned consideration to the information contained in the staff report and information received during the public hearing, the Washoe County Planning Commission adopt the resolution contained as Exhibit A of the staff report to amend the master plan as set forth in Master Plan Amendment Case WMP A19-0003, having made the following 5 findings in accordance with the Washoe County Code Section 110.820.15D, and all the findings in accordance with Policy SS 17.1 of the Spanish Springs Area Plan. I further move to certify the resolution and proposed master plan amendments in WMPA 19-0003 at the set forth in this staff report for submission to the Washoe County Board of County Commissions, and authorize the chair to sign the resolution on behalf of the Planning Commission, and I can find all the findings.
I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Chevelchek and a second by Commissioner Donchek. Any discussion on the motion? Then I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, moving right along here. Item 10, Chair and Commission items. Any future agenda items? Seeing none. Any requests for information from staff? Seeing none. We have a report on previous planning commission items. Mr. Boyd.
Nothing to report tonight.
Forthcoming.
Wow. Okay. Council Edwards, legal information or updates?
Real quickly, you'll recall Lakes at Lemon Valley was a approximately 100-unit subdivision proposed for Lemon Drive out just south of Military Road. You denied that in November of last year. The county commission unanimously denied it as well. A petition for judicial review was filed. The court overturned that denial and ordered it approved. That is currently on appeal in the Nevada Supreme Court. So I just wanted to give you an update on that and let you know where we are. So we are challenging the judge's ruling, which overruled both you and the county commission in that case. So I don't know where it's going to end up, but that's where we are right now. They put us into their almost mandatory settlement program. And so we're going to be meeting with the settlement judge and the developers' lawyers in the near future. And by that, I mean in the legal perspective, the near future. So probably sometime in the next 5 or 6 months.
To it, huh?
Yeah, we'll hurry up and have a meeting on that. And that's where we are right now. So I just want to let you guys know.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Horan.
Council Edwards, could you expand on what the judge saw in that we failed to do, or the commissioners failed to do?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's an interesting case. The motion here was to deny because of problems with access. And if you'll remember, this one was the right in, right out only. And then the various issues that came up because of that. The county commission upheld your decision and affirmed your denial, which was to deny based on access. The judge decided that it wasn't quite weighty enough to deny. That's my best attempt to describe what the judge's conclusion was. It wasn't quite weighty enough to deny the proposed development. And so on appeal, the real question for the Supreme Court is, tell us what the amount of weight is that we need to give it, because otherwise we're just kind of grasping at straws. I mean, we've all been instructed on what the substantial evidence standard is, and it's a good definition. It's fairly workable, and in most cases it's not really that close of a call, but sometimes it is a closer call. And if it is a closer call, what's the tipping point? And that's really where we are in this argument. The other side has some good arguments. I think ours are more than valid, and I think we have a good shot. But I do think it's an opportunity from the public and from planning perspectives to have some clarification in our case law on, all right, what's the quantum of evidence that we need? What are some touchstones that tell us whether substantial evidence has been satisfied? Because it certainly seems like that significant problems with access could meet that standard. There is a statute that requires you to consider access when you're looking at a subdivision. There's a county code provision that requires you to consider access and effect on the surrounding streets. So it seems like if those provisions of law require you to consider that in your decision, that it would be adequate if you decide that it's not good enough and deny for that reason. The court disagreed with us, the district court, but we'll see what the Court on Appeal says.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
General.
Oh, yeah, excuse me. Any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second. Whatever. We're done.
We're adjourned.